Let's bring in, he's a writer, he's an author, and he's an insider on the Yes Network for covering the New York Yankees. Jack Curry joins us now as we begin hour number 2 here on Hot Stove. Good morning to you, Jack. How are you?
Hey, Robert. Hey, Harold. Great to join you guys.
Jack, no need for you to shave anymore. You just show up on TV now, bro. You're good.
And Jack, you've got an interesting perspective because you were covering this team on a daily basis during Don Mattingly's era when the facial and the hair policy kind of became an issue that was percolating near the surface. There was some real consternation about this. Now that almost 50 years later, this policy has been altered, where are you?
It's interesting that you bring up the Mattingly situation, Robert. So I do want to address that real quickly. That was stunning when Don Mattingly was benched for not getting a haircut. After that occurred, the late, great Gene Michael, who was GM at the time, he took the fall for that because he had said to Stump Merrill, listen, Donnie's got to get a haircut. And Stump said, well, what happens if he won't do it? He said, well, then he can't play. Stick didn't mean at that moment, he didn't mean to bench one of your best players, but that's the way that Merrill took it. As you said, it became a 72 or 96-hour story, maybe even more since we're talking about it 30-plus years later. But I was surprised but not surprised by this because of what Hal Steinbrenner said in his statement, guys. Hal Steinbrenner talked to a lot of current and former players. And if you look at who's around the Yankee camp right now, Ron Guidry, CC Sabathia, players who draw a lot of respect within the Yankee organization. You saw what happened with Devin Williams when he came into camp. He said he felt naked without his beard. I think all of that swirling around caused Hal Steinbrenner to do what he did today.
Hey, Jack, I'm not being facetious with this. You've been around long enough, so my question is not facetious. You think they've lost free agents over the hair policy?
Well, I will say this, Harold. Brian Wilson, who we all knew had the long beard, it was such a part of who he was a reliever. And there was a period in time where his name was brought up to general manager Brian Cashman, and Cash said, you can cross him off the list. So I do remember that as one specific situation. But Harold, you've been around this game a long time, and I also do think there was an understanding that this was the Yankee way. George Steinbrenner had a military background. This goes back to 1976 when he decided that this was something that he wanted his players to do. He felt it was discipline. He felt that the well-groomed look was the way that the Yankees should look. I think if you were a free agent and you were considering the Yankees, you would understand that once you got there, the beard was going to have to go.
Sure. Yeah, I think David Price had some comments about.
Yes.
I don't know how to take it. I think it's going to be interesting to see this moving forward. And they will have trouble with well-groomed. If you're 5 for 5, you're good. If you're 0 for, you better get that thing cleaned up.
Well, Harold and Robert, let's also, you can go back into your archives. I don't want to give your crew any extra assignments this morning, but there have been plenty of starts that I have watched where CC Sabathia, Andy Pettitte, Roger Clemens, they took the mound with a pretty heavy growth. And we all know you're not bothering a starting pitcher on the day where he's pitching. Yeah. So if one of those pitchers showed up with a 2 or 3 day growth, they go out and pitch, and then they'll shave after the game. I remember Andy Pettitte specifically was always incredibly clean-shaven after the game. So I think some players, Harold, have been blurring the lines already over the years.
Hey, Jack, what was your reaction to the Aaron Boone extension?
Expected, not surprised. I know that there's a great comfort level between Aaron Boone and Brian Cashman, and then Aaron Boone and Hal Steinbrenner. Very well respected by his players in the clubhouse. If you eliminate the COVID season, because obviously it wasn't a 162-game season, you're looking at a manager who has averaged 95 wins a season. I think Aaron Boone's connection with his players is one of his greatest strengths. And I think the Yankees feel they have unfinished business. And they essentially told us that this was coming. Both Cashman and Steinbrenner have been on the record in recent days and weeks saying that they would like to get an extension done for Aaron Boone. And guys, I think it's smart for the Yankees. You got to the World Series last season. Your hope and your belief is that you can do it again. I don't think you want to ride into 2025 with a lame duck manager. You push that off to the side by giving him an extension.
So we're in the spring, Jack, and the Yankees are getting started here, as is everybody else. Come 6 weeks, 4 weeks, however long it might be till we get to the end of camp, what would they have needed to accomplish? What would be Aaron Boone and staff's goals as they get ready to break for first game?
Well, Harold, the first thing I would always say is stay healthy, right? So we've already seen that has become an issue for the Yankees with Stanton. We'll see where that goes with the tennis elbow that he is dealing with in both elbows.
Arms. I've never heard of that ever before. Have you?
I maybe from a tennis player, but obviously he swings so hard and he swings with such power that I have to believe that that's part of what is going on with him. I've talked to so many managers and general managers at the outset of spring training, and they talk about health. But if you're talking to me about something that has to go right for the Yankees in spring training, Harold, the player that I would point to is Jason Dominguez. I think the Yankees need Dominguez to have a strong spring training. There shouldn't be any back to AAA, up to the major leagues with him this year. This is his opportunity to shine. He's 22 years old. He's someone we've been hearing about for 5 years or so right now, ever since they signed him. So I think Dominguez is the player I'm probably going to be watching more than anyone else this spring.
I got one last question coming to the lineup. We had this discussion early on this morning. Where does Judge hit? Does he move back to 2 or does he stay in the 3 spot? What do you think they'll settle on?
I would be shocked if Judge is not hitting second. I know Judge has said he likes to hit third, and he said it in his press conference the other day, but you want your best hitters to get the most at-bats. And I don't have the numbers in front of me, but our research guys would fill me in on this. Hitting second as opposed to third over the course of the season, that's going to matter to a certain number of at-bats. So I am absolutely hitting Judge in the number 2 spot. I also like what you guys did with Dominguez leading off. I think that he sees a lot of pitches. He's got a lot of plate discipline. It might be a lot to hand to a rookie, but I think him hitting in front of Judge is smart. But guys, yeah, for me, Judge is hitting second in this lineup. Juan Soto is not in this lineup. So you want Judge to get as many at-bats as possible.
Hey, Jack, we'll get you out of here on this one. Austin Wells, he had what's described as the slow ramp-up to this season and to the start of spring training, finished 2024, kind of limped to the finish offensively. Where is Austin Wells at right now?
It's interesting, Robert, because when Aaron Boone talked about slow playing him, there was some questions about, well, he could be injured. Is there something going on there? Of course, his first swing in live BP, he hits a home run, so he quieted some of that. I think, guys, this is where sports science starts to come into play. And you're looking at Austin Wells as somebody who, if you play 5 out of every 7 games a week, which is what I would do if I was putting the lineup card together, that's 125 or so games.
Yeah.
Austin Wells is going to play a lot. Whoever ends up being the backup catcher for the Yankees, there's going to be a bigger gap from starter to backup than the Yankees have had in a while. Okay. So I just think it's a matter of giving him a month or so to get ready, as opposed to maybe grinding it through 5 or 6 weeks.
I'll end it with this for me. My most intriguing player, and I think maybe, well, I'm not going to say the most important because they have a few guys that are really important, but Cody Bellinger is going to have a huge impact on this team. Where are they working?
Bellinger hitting at Yankee Stadium too, Harold. He didn't want to use it as an excuse, but I know in talking to some people around him and some people around baseball, I think that hitting at Wrigley Field became a different challenge for him. I know the Yankees have already run the numbers. Had he played all of his game as a Yankee last year, he would have hit 6 more home runs than he did as a Cub. I think his versatility and the ability to play multiple positions is something that's going to work well for the Yankees. And I just think being in New York is really going to help Bellinger. I think once the Yankees started their post-Soto pivot, that Bellinger was at the top of their list. He was somebody that they had to go out and get. And I do see him as someone who you'll probably tuck in right behind Judge in that lineup and feel good about it.
All right, Jack Curry covering the Yankees on the Yes Network. He's an Emmy winner. He's a writer, he's an author, and he's an insider. Jack, great stuff as always, man. Good to catch up with you. Talk to you soon.